Hello everyone, what's up? My name is Alex and welcome back to a brand new Throwback review. Last week I reviewed episode 2 of series 1, The End of the World. If you haven't seen it yet, then I highly recommend you do so. Today I'm reviewing the 3rd episode of series 1, The Unquiet Dead. Now before I start, I need to mention that for future reviews there will be some special guests appearing on the channel who will be giving their thoughts and opinions on their favourite Doctor Who episodes of every series. However, it's just myself today, and so without further ado, let's begin my review on The Unquiet Dead. The Unquiet Dead sees the Doctor and Rose travelling back in time to what they supposedly thought to be Naples 1860 on Christmas Eve. Instead, it's 1869 in Cardiff, where they run into trouble with a few body snatchers, and along the way they are helped by the one, the only Charles Dickens. The Doctor and Rose find out there's something strange going on. Gas creatures from another dimension stealing dead bodies, reusing them in the form of gas zombies. These gas creatures, called the Gelth, are trying to get through the rift to save themselves from extinction. However, it doesn't go to plan, and the Doctor ends up trying to stop these gas creatures from succeeding their plan. Now looking back on this episode, I really appreciated what Mark Gatiss did for his first Doctor Who story, and this one ultimately serves as a remarkable counterpiece on the 9th Doctor. You definitely see a lot more character development with the 9th Doctor. Charles Dickens himself is played by Simon Callow, who has played Charles Dickens in many productions before Doctor Who, and he is brilliant in the role, with a standout scene being his conversation with the stage manager. Dickens starts the episode, as he says, like a ghost, condemned to repeat himself for all eternity, and upon this experience with the Doctor, Rose and the Gelth, finds a new side of Charles Dickens. It gives him a lot more life by the end, almost a polar opposite to the Gelth. Seeing all the death within the Gelth makes Dickens realise that there's more to life than one really realises, and it makes it the more upsetting when the episode ends knowing that Dickens is going to die soon. He does ultimately help to save the day in the end. He's pretty much one of those famous historical characters that Doctor Who were waiting to exploit, and he was just outstanding to watch. I honestly loved small little segments between him and the Doctor discussing about what Dickens has dedicated himself to believe in, the injustice, the great social causes. He hoped that he was a force for good, and now he faces the unknown, the illusions of ghosts, and he feels like that his brief span has been wasted, which shows that Dickens is a justifiable person and he fulfills his time wisely. Anyway, like I said, this episode serves as an interesting counterpiece, particularly on the 9th Doctor, giving Christopher Eccleston loads of chances to shine, and for writer Mark Gatiss to explore his incarnation's character based around Russell T Davies' setup. The whole episode is based around the Doctor's skills surrounding the Time War, and how this has changed him from a merry traveller with mysterious parts in the classic series to a much darker and more brooding hero, trying to find the light again in the new series. It's ultimately about the guilt of the Gelth tricking the Doctor into giving them what they want, using the Doctor's history about the Time War by explaining just how much they lost from it to create an interesting parallel between them and the last of the Time Lords. It's ultimately his fault that the Time War happened and lost his people, so the Doctor hopes that saving the lives of the Gelth will help repent his sins, which ultimately proves to be his downfall, and the sheer misery on Eccleston's face as he says goodbye to Gwyneth at the end displays not only Eccleston's excellent acting ability, but also just how bad the character feels because he lets someone die because of his own mistakes. This is truly one of Christopher Eccleston's best Doctor Who episodes from an acting point of view. The scene where he and Rose argue over the morality of the Gelth using dead bodies as hosts for these gas creatures highlighted that the Doctor really is an alien. It also shows two very valid moral opinions from both sides and allows the viewer to decide with whoever they agree with, Rose makes a very good point that it seems wrong and disrespectful, but the Doctor sees it as an act of kindness and helping out another species. Both make valid arguments and the episode never sides with either one. By the end of the episode, the argument can still last, and despite the Gelth's malevolent intentions, but it could have been that they weren't evil, and what happens if this situation happens again for a good alien species? It's an interesting argument to make. However, my favourite scene in this episode is where the Doctor talks with Charles Dickens in the coach, and the Doctor reacts like he's met a famous fanatic like Dickens. Yes, Charles Dickens. Yes, the Charles Dickens. It's the sheer excitement on the Doctor's face as he gets to meet such an influential literal figure. It's really showing a much more human side to this Doctor, which almost feels polar opposite to the previous scenes. I think it's more to do with Eccleston's performance and the sheer range that he brings to the character that makes it feels like one person rather than two completely different characters. It's also quite funny to see the Doctor completely fanboy out, even down to his little criticism of Dickens' work. This episode is very much a gothic horror story, judging by this setting, and you can feel the tension, the atmosphere, and the creepy dark sinister vibe that you get from these ghastly creatures and ghost zombies. For Mark Gatiss' first Doctor Who episode, you can't really criticise his work when we hardly have an idea of what type of writer he was at the time. But from the scale of this episode, Mark Gatiss really knows how to make a good, entertaining gothic horror story, which gives him a good stepping stone to work on for other Doctor Who scripts. However, for this being a horror story, we do have our stock characters. The unlikable and slimy Mr. Sneed, who gets picked off quite early on after such hilarious grim liners. We've got another one. Although Gwyneth is much more like the sweet innocent whose death really does mean something in the episode, and Charles Dickens is of course a skeptic who ends up the episode with a much more open mind from his experience. The Unquiet Dead is one of those morbid, almost terrifying episodes in Doctor Who's history, and overall I really enjoy it. This episode is very underrated in my opinion. I like the darkish and slightly morbid tone enhanced with some terrific character moments and some really great lines of dialogue from Mark Gatiss. The Gelth look terrifying in their ghastly state within the 19th century time zone, and the ultimate counter arc for the Doctor, utilising the element of the Time War establishes in the previous episode, works extremely well, and it shows you how a great showrunner Russell T Davies was back in series 1. The music by Murray Gold is subtly used and it's subtly creepy. The Unquiet Dead is a truly brilliant episode, which many people need to appreciate it more. My overall rating for this episode is a 9 out of 10. Please let me know what did you think about The Unquiet Dead in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like this review and remember to please subscribe to this channel for more amazing videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time for my next review, which will be Aliens of London and World War III. Now, I am planning to do a combined review of these two episodes, which might take me slightly longer. However, we'll see what happens next week. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves. Goodbye.